live and we are back. Let's go. I'm Cory, your host. One half of the Quarter and Full of Fat podcast. And I'm back like 11F, like another left. Like I never left with another installment of Wealth Wednesday here. Wealth Wednesday. Money Mindset here. I know it's going to mess up. Here on the Quarter and Full of Fat podcast, we discuss health and wealth, finance and fitness, and everything in between. We want to make sure you save more and say less and keep making better your best. Yes, yes. However, my co-host Jordan on paternity leave, we started Money Mindset, formerly known as Wealth Wednesdays, where we get straight to the financial information, no filler in between. And I know y'all see the topic of today's video. We're going to talk about the middle class or the lack thereof. What I probably did 6 or 7 episodes ago about how much it takes to be in the middle class based off of single and married across various states. But now we're going to look at what it takes to quote unquote be rich. I believe that's what it says in the CBS article. What it takes to be rich. And then we're going to look at no down payment mortgages. And even if you don't have to put any money down, if that is still affordable for the quote unquote middle class. All right. But before we get started, I know what to do. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you leave those rating reviews on the podcast platforms as well. My information, as well as my co-host Jordan information, can be found in the description on YouTube. All right. Nothing for the monthly car payment updates because we already did that for the beginning of July. Student loans. Nah. Right. I mean, as you guys know, myself and Jordan, right? Jordan works for the government. I'm a government contractor. So we're not going to talk about the attempted assassination on President Trump or former President Trump because he's not no longer president. But President Trump, we're not going to talk about that. That's all I'm going to say on it. But student loans, I guess, is the least of the issues. All right. And Trump is leading in all the polls for all the swing states. And they even got Kamala Harris. They've even tested like Kamala Harris running against Trump. So hey, it is what it is. Talk to y'all, on the first after the first Tuesday in November. All right. And last but not least, this is for entertainment purposes only. Myself, nor Jordan, nor financial professionals. Anything you hear is for entertainment purposes only. You need to do your own research and seek out a professional before taking any action. All right. Let's get into it, y'all. Can the middle class afford homes? First, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how much it quote unquote takes to be. I think it defines it as being rich in the middle class. So we're going to go to we've done a handful of CBS articles. We've done a handful of Bankrate articles too. I would say Bankrate is second to good old faithful CNBC, but we've done a lot of CBS, a good amount, I think, of CBS articles. All right. Here's how much income it takes to be considered rich in your state. This is by Christopher. Christopher with a K. Christopher might be a woman in this case with a K. Christopher J. Brooks, edited by Amy Peachy. This April 26, 2024. All right. Many Americans aspire to join the ranks of the wealthy, but the income threshold for being considered rich depends on a lot on where you live. True, shout out to COLA. That's cost of living adjustment, or just COLA, right? Cost of living. All right. For those people who do work for the government gives out a cost of federal government, get a cost of living adjustment based off of where you live at. Let's, go to OPM or OPM. Is it OPM? OPM. What is it? OPM? Yeah. OPM. You can Google that, see what the cost of living adjustment is for your particular area. Not just states, like area / region, smaller than region, but the state / states. I think Maryland, the Baltimore, DC, Virginia, whatever they lump this area in DC, which is why I said it's all the same, technically, the same place. I think we're second highest, third. I think it's definitely top 5. I think like Alaska and Hawaii are like the only ones that are ahead of it, or maybe even Washington area. Regardless, this area is one of the highest because it costs a lot of money to live here. And you guys are going to see that when we get to these articles. Again, I always say Maryland, DC, and Virginia, even though they're 3 different places, in short, they're all the same place for where people who actually make up the higher cost of living actually live at. DC is all the same, and then most of Maryland the same, and then Nova or Northern Virginia. It's all the same place. It takes, as this says, it also takes considerably more income to join the top 5% of earners than just a few years ago. According to new research from GoBankingRates.com, which examines state income data from the 5-year period from 2017 to 2022. The latter year represents the most recent household income data from the U.S. Census Bureau. So we still don't even have data from last year yet. This article was in April. Does it take almost half a year to get data from previous year? I guess so. It's crazy to think that the most recent quote unquote data from the Census Bureau is from 2022. Wow. The easiest place to reach the top of the heap is West Virginia. West Virginia does border Maryland, right? But that's Western Maryland. All right, we don't count that. Also, by the way, too, disclaimer is I can see the lightning going off, so this ends up being like chopped and edited weird. That's because the power went out / the Wi-Fi went out, and if y'all can hear the AC running in the back, that's because it's been hot as hell here in Maryland for like the last almost a week or so. All right, so sorry if y'all can hear the AC, but I rock the hoodie just for like signature because hoodies are my thing. But I normally turn the AC off because it's right there behind me. All right, easiest place again is saying West Virginia, Mississippi, Alabama, but West Virginia, you only need $329,620. That will qualify you as among its highest earners, but you'll have to earn more than twice that at $719,253 to join the top 5% in Washington, D.C. So what they're classifying here as the top income earners is the top 5%. All right, and again, this is from 2022, so even higher now, right? Because inflation in 2020 and 2023 was the highest it's been in a long time, as far as what they calculated for. All right, Americans' fortunes have improved during the last 5 years, partially due to the federal government's pandemic. That's not a good thing. Shout out to what else the pandemic did. Shout out to the damn inflation. Due to the federal government's pandemic stimulus efforts that doled out billions in aid to businesses and taxpayers, said Andrew Murray. Did it give out? Never mind. I said I'm gonna stop saying never mind because when I rewatch these things, I forget what I was gonna say, even though I say never mind. People who, when it says taxpayers here, right? Businesses and taxpayers, do we consider people who don't actually pay taxes part of the taxpayers? Like it's saying the government gave out billions of dollars to businesses and taxpayers, said Andrew Murray, lead data content researcher for Go Banking Rates. Are people who are on government subsidies, Section 8, things like that, where the government pays essentially for their entire life, the taxpayers, right, and businesses, right? Businesses pay taxes too. But do we consider them part of the taxpayers? Are they not in the taxpayer population when they do these things? Because if you actually don't pay taxes, right? Let's say you pay taxes, right? You pay sales tax, things like that. But when we're usually talking taxpayers here, we're talking about people who pay, property tax, income taxes, businesses for the taxes that business pay. So for people on government subsidies, are they in that taxpayer thing? Because if they are, that number is heavily inflated. Anyways, a lot of people, everyone, I believe, essentially, based on the calculations, who receive government subsidies, they would have qualified for the stimulus checks that came out when President Trump was in office and then when President Biden was in office. Anyways, at the same time, the nation's top earning households are gaining a greater share of income, fueling rising income inequality, since the data shows. Income inequality as far as what, across state to state or within the state in and of itself? The nation's top earning households are gaining a greater share of income. Anyways, COVID relief policies bolster the economy, leading to boosted stock prices, real estate, and savings. I wouldn't say it bolstered the economy. Maybe bolster usually has a positive connotation to it. Let me look at the definition of bolster. Provide with padded support. Nah, I guess if that's the definition. Synonyms of it. Yeah, help. Help is help. Strengthen, support, cushion, I wouldn't say. These conditions were especially favorable for the wealthiest of Americans who experienced dramatic income increases, especially considering the fact that many companies saw record profits. Yes, if you want one thing the stock market did was jump during the panorama. Went down some, I think, last year, 2022. Ooh, we're over halfway through 2024. So now when I'm thinking last year, it's hard for me to think. And the pandemic's got my whole, frame of mind around time messed up. To be sure, income isn't the same as wealth, which has also grown since the pandemic. True. Income is not wealth. Remember the episode Jordan and I did for podcast files. The lady on Twitter was saying income is not wealth, which is true. To be sure, income isn't the same. To be sure, income isn't the same as wealth, which has also grown since the pandemic. But earning a higher salary can help families build their assets. In theory, allowing them to buy homes. In theory, invest in education for their children and take other steps to cement their wealth. In theory, one would say the more with over 30% of people. Maybe we should find another more recent article on that. But maybe it's over 30% of people, or maybe it's 30% of millennials who make over $100,000 living paycheck to paycheck. So no, making more money is not the answer. Now, this isn't talking about making this is talking about making six figures. This is making, over $500,000, almost 3/4 of $1 million, what we saw for DC at 719,000, almost $1 million, which is crazy. The thing, likely in my lifetime, is gonna be $1 million in DC. It's gonna look crazy over here, I guess. Anyways, the outside also too, invest in education for their children. Man, if people was investing in education for their children, I'm not talking about the wealthy people, I'm just talking about in general, we wouldn't have all these student loan issues. When it comes to people and their kids' education, man, I cannot wait. And I don't want it to happen, but it's gonna happen. People's kids are gonna get on the internet, whatever the pop in social media is, and they're gonna talk about their student loan issues. And I'm literally just gonna tag you in your parents' post and say, see all these trips they went on, this wedding, these things like that. This is why you have student loan debt. Because that's what's about to happen. We're getting to a point now where millennials, our children, not mine, because my son's not even 11 months yet, but for the millennials who already had children, that are in their late teen years, they're on social media. And for those people who were in my age bracket, so I'll be 31 this year, but had kids, right out of high school, they have almost teenagers now. So in short, though, for my generation, as far as my, 1 to 2 years plus or minus, late 80s, early 90s babies, you've essentially put your whole life on the internet. Now we've grown through the growing pains of social media and all the stuff that comes along with it, which Gen Z hasn't had to do, but your whole life's on the internet. Now, some of y'all do the cleanup where you delete stuff. You're still in that high school crap where you delete stuff when you break up, things like that. But for most millennials, your whole life is on the internet. For those who were born in late 80s, early 90s. And it's just like, yeah, all these trips, all these vacations, everything you were taking, showing where you was making decisions to build your assets, putting you in position to buy homes or buy a home and invest in your education for your children so you can cement your wealth. I mean, like, come on now. The outsized income growth of the nation's top earning families before and after the pandemic may be one of the U.S. economy's most important storylines, Murray said. Even though the bottom 20% of earners saw drastic increases in pay, their overall wealth share in the country actually decreased as the rich became much richer, he said. Yeah, when everybody got these stimulus checks, a lot of people went and spent that money on designer, or in short, gave the money back to rich people. So in short, the rich people own these companies, these designer companies that a lot of poor people are spending their money on. And then so even though those the bottom 20% had an increase in income and the stimulus checks, because based off of just income threshold, everyone in the bottom 20%, would qualify for it just in general. They quote unquote had more money. But just because you have more money, income is not wealth. I've already said this before. Just because you have more money doesn't mean you're going to have more wealth. And a lot of those people, all they did was go and take that money that they got either increase in pay and or stimulus checks, and they went and spent it or gave it back to these wealthy people. I mean, it's just like the lottery. I mean, it'd be different if we didn't have the lottery data, but we already have the data in on what happens when you give people who are in poverty, do not have any money, when you give them a lump sum of money, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, they fumble it. That's why a lot of people say they want reparations. Most of you niggas can't manage money. So the last thing we should do is give you niggas money. And also, too, I don't know if people know this. You get reparations, you can't get reparations twice. So if y'all end up asking or finding a way to get these reparations, you can't go back and ask for them the money again. They already paid the debt. All right, double jeopardy. You can't go to jail twice for the same crime. All right, but I mean, that's where I get a whole nother episode. Anyways, though, after West Virginia is Mississippi. Mississippi is normally deemed the poorest state in the union, but sometimes, West Virginia shows up. Anyways, Mississippi had the second lowest at 333,597 according to Go Banking rates. Again, over $1/3 of $1 million, right? Dumb people always overpaying for these swing things. Anyways, meanwhile, joining the 5% of earners requires considerably more in many eastern states. Yep, we border this water, with Connecticut's threshold at 656,438 and New York at 621,301, the study found. Yeah, so when it comes to Connecticut slash New York, a lot of people, I say a lot of people live in New York City, but there are plenty of people, same thing with like Maryland slash Northern Virginia and DC. There are plenty of people who live in Connecticut, but then they bus it in. They don't catch a bus probably, but they travel into New York and make that New York money. But their actual address is Connecticut. A lot of politicians, their address, as far as their primary residence or where they're getting calculated at for this data, is DC. So you got all the politicians, not all of them, but a lot of politicians, their primary residence is DC. Right. So that's what they're filling out. And so that income, that net worth, all that type of stuff gets equated. And same thing, a lot of people live in DC and they go work in Nova or they go work in Maryland and vice versa. Right. I mean, I work technically in Northern Virginia, but those are the type of things when you're looking at this data and you see these various states, how they got it spaced out, you got to keep in mind a lot of people who live in Connecticut work in New York City. All right, here's an income to be a top earner. Again, top earner here is 5%, 5%, top 5% of income, particular state. All right, you need more than $500,000 annually to be considered amongst the highest earning residents in 11 states and DC. So DC is first. Here we go, 719,000. Connecticut 656. Then New York, Massachusetts, California, Jersey, Washington, Maryland, Virginia, Colorado. Yep, Illinois, Hawaii, New Hampshire, Florida, Texas. Yeah. So in short, you got the East Coast slash Northeast, Eastern states. Then you got California, Washington, West Coast states. All right, then Colorado, which if you don't know what Colorado is, usually at the top of cost of living, Chicago slash Chicago's not a state, but Illinois, where Chicago's at, Chicago has slash Illinois has crazy high property taxes. All right, Hawaii, no surprise there. Then you go back to New Hampshire, then Florida, you imagine. Then Minnesota, Texas. Now you're kind of getting towards like the middle part. Utah, Georgia, right, Pennsylvania, right. You're getting all the rest of the states, that are popular but not as popular, right? You got very lower cost of living areas there, or very low cost of living areas. Carolinas, Wisconsin, right? You get into the Midwest, South, right? Then at the bottom, we could get into Wisconsin, Idaho, Maine, South Dakota, Iowa, Louisiana, Indiana, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Arkansas, aka Arkansas, Alabama, New Mexico, Mississippi, and then West Virginia. But still, it's 330,000, 719,000, with most states being, I would say the median is probably in this 450-ish range, K range. Let's see if they calculate it for us. And again, this is based on 2022 data from the U.S. Census Bureau. This comes down to cost of living. Murray said people in New York and DC, right, they pay higher salaries than people in states like, right, Arkansas and Louisiana. Exactly. Between 2017 and 2022, Iowa, Nevada, and Washington saw the biggest jumps in the amount needed to be considered among their state's top earners, according to banking rates. So we got Idaho. Is that Idaho? Yeah, Iowa, Nevada, and my memory's slipping me, Washington. So we got Washington, though. Washington's top 10, right? 544, right above Maryland at 540. And we got Idaho. Idaho looking like is the bottom third at 402. And then that last state was Nevada. At 449, so 50,000. Yeah, I mean, Nevada had a lot of people moved away during the pandemic. They moved from California, and Las Vegas slash Nevada was one of the major places where the Great Migration out of California, where people went. A lot of people went to Texas and Florida, but a lot of people went to Las Vegas. As Las Vegas, I say it's not that far away. People drive from LA to Vegas, right? I believe it's like 3 hours or so. Could be lying. It's 5 hours, 4 hours. So look, shorter than what it takes for me to get to Greensboro, where my wife's from Maryland. That's 5 hours. All right. So, people have no issue making that drive. over there. So a lot of people, they were, at least what I was seeing, they were selling their primary residence, moving to Nevada, and then keeping keeping their rental properties in California. And this is during the pandemic. Idahoans. One thing I wanted to, and there's somebody who has memorized like Maryland people are called Marylanders, Idahoans, right? People in Idaho are called Idahoans, require an extra 115,769 annual income, while Nevadans need an additional 129,000, almost 130. And Washingtonians, I think Washingtonians might be my favorite one. Washingtonians must earn 166,000 extra more to join the top 5%. This reason is due to changing the comedy rate in Idaho, Nevada, and Washington due to the past couple years. Washington, for example, saw residents' incomes rise 44%. Ooh. Silicon Valley, like number 2 up there in Washington. I don't know if it's number 2, but I know Amazon is headquartered there, and Microsoft, I believe. They're both headquartered in Washington. And Starbucks might be as well. Is it? I don't know. Anyways, wow, 50, almost 50% in 5 years is crazy. That means you went from 100,000 to 150,000. Every $100,000 was 50,000. Wow, almost 44 to be exact. Likely due to Seattle's rising reputation as a tech hub after COVID. I want to be at the panorama. I want to be very clear. I do not read these articles ahead of time. And if you've been watching this, but if not, if you're first time listeners, shout out to the first time listeners. I do not read these articles ahead of time, let alone read ahead while I'm reading. So when I was talking about Amazon, Microsoft, and maybe even Seattle's not a tech company, but Amazon and Microsoft being in Seattle is exactly what I was saying. In Idaho, thousands of people moved to Boise during the pandemic, bringing with them their salaries from remote work. Okay, so people kept their remote jobs and they moved to these areas. Interesting. In the case of Nevada, which ranked number 2 study-wide, gambling became more readily legalized. Yes, and accessible from 2017. Yes, the sports get betting. Yep. This led to major profit increases for companies headquartered in Las Vegas. True. Oh my goodness. All right, y'all. So in short, you got to make at least $350,000 to round up to make the conversation simple, but really in the $400,000 range to be considered rich in your particular state. All right. Now we're going to switch over to how do you qualify for no down payment? Also, to y'all, as I remember, make sure you comment, like, share, and subscribe. Let us know what you think. And if you got any questions, comments, or concerns, please let us know and reach out to us. I got to get better doing my advertisement, I guess, in the middle. All right. Leave a comment, like it, share it. You know what it is. Tell your people, tell people. In the words of Sir Alex the Great, tell a friend to tell a friend. Shout out to Sir Alex. Anyways, guide to no down payment mortgages. Am I eligible? Well, if you're rich, right? If you're making that 330,000 plus in your state, whichever state it is, but a minimum of 340,000, I hope you would be able to, get a down payment. But again, most people get as much house as they qualify for. All right. And the most money they ever had saved is the down payment. But this is saying, hey, guide to no down payment mortgages. Am I eligible? I hope this only doesn't talk about the VA loan. Key takeaways: a no down payment mortgage allows you to buy a home without putting any money down up front at closing. Cool. I want to be separate. This is going to talk about still paying closing costs here. The 2 main types of loans that don't usually require a down payment are VA loans and USDA loans. Looks like we're going to get into that. Some alternatives to no down payment mortgages include low down payment loans, such as conventional or FHA loan, down payment assistance, and gift funds. If you qualify for a no down payment mortgage, you can get a loan for the full purchase of a home with no money down up front. Here's what you need to know. For the VA loan, I don't even need to read this. I can give you all a good amount of information on the VA loan. I'm still going to read it, but I know about the VA loan. Interested to see what it is for the USDA loan. I wonder how much information I'm going to get into about the VA loan, though, they talk about disabled veterans. What is a no down payment mortgage? A no down payment mortgage is a home loan that allows you to finance 100% of the home's purchase price without having to put any money down at closing. When they say no money down, no down payment, my assumption is they're still saying you need to, you may, not guarantee, but you may need to pay for closing. And again, we had the change, change in the law as far as paying buyers being able to pay their agents fees or commission as far as the real estate agent. So interesting if this, it talks about that here. And again, this was published June 24th this year, 2024. Written by Lori Richards, edited by Suzanne DeVetta, and reviewed by Jeff Ostrowski. Yeah. All right. Zero down mortgages, the saying, can be particularly beneficial for those buying a home for the first time or with limited savings. 1/5, 20% of aspiring homeowners believe they won't ever be able to save enough to buy a home, according to Bank Rate's 2024 down payment survey. Let's be clear. Most people's issues is that they got debt, and most people's issues that they got student loan debt. We already, did a long time ago how one of the people's main things they're delaying outside of having children is buying a home. All right, and we talk about people who are married but don't have kids have the most student loan debt, like, right? Anyways, all these advertisements. No money down mortgage options. The easiest way to avoid a down payment to qualify for either a VA loan or USDA loan. You're not going to qualify for a VA loan if you're not a veteran with an honorable discharge. It's that simple. People who are enlisted can still get it, or officers, but you're not. All right, if you didn't join the military / get out of the military, if you're not in the military / join the military and then got out with an honorable discharge, you ain't looking at the VA loan. You might be able to still get it if you don't have an honorable. Might be able to get it if you get general. I have to look and see. But you only want honorable discharge. Let's be very clear. If they threaten you about not getting your honorable, take the threat seriously and take your honorable, y'all. Anyways, VA loans. If you're military, right, service member, veteran, or eligible surviving spouse, you might qualify for the VA loan. All right, VA loans, guaranteed by Department of Affairs. Right, unlike conventional loan, there's no mortgage insurance required for a no down payment VA loan. However, you do have to pay upfront funding fee. The upfront funding fee is the VA's version of the mortgage PMI or mortgage insurance premium, whatever it is. The MIP is for FHA loans, and conventional loans is PMI. PMI, you have to pay that when you have less than 20% equity when you purchase the home. Then once you get 20% of equity in the house, 20% equity in the house, it's supposed to come off. Sometimes it comes automatically. It just kind of depends on the terms and conditions of your mortgage. But as far as the VA loan, they're saying you don't have mortgage insurance, but you do have the funding fee. And a lot of times that funding fee is rolled into the loan insured, as it says right there, which can be rolled into the mortgage. This fee ranges from 1.25% to 3.3% of the loan amount. You can reduce the funding fee by making a down payment. The one thing they don't have here, and it's so interesting. Excuse me. I haven't looked at the numbers to see who makes use of the VA loan more, veterans or people who are still in the military, active duty in short. But if you're a veteran, maybe not now because they got rid of the compensation amount for tinnitus. But when it says here there's 1.25% or 3.3% for the funding fee, you get the lower amount, the 1.25%. It depends on how much you put down, but in short, there are ranges or tiers, however you want to look at it, of percentages that you'll pay for the funding fee. And the lowest you'll pay is the very first time insured, regardless if you put 5% or 10% down or 10% or more. I think it's 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and 10 or more. Those are the tiers. And based off of whatever tier you fall in, that's the percentage you're going to pay. And they have a first time rate, which is the lowest. Then they have your second, 2+ more times. Second or more is always the same. The rate you'll pay for the funding fee, your second time you buy a house is going to be the same, unless they change the rates, but it's going to be the same tier or section the third time you buy your house. But the main thing that I'm trying to get to here is that for people who are veterans, we're saying here, veterans, not all, but like 99% of veterans who qualify for VA disability compensation, you don't have to pay that because the minimum you need. So if you're a disabled veteran, you don't have to pay the funding fee because the funding fee is waived if you're receiving any compensation from the VA. And you would think it would have to be higher. We'll talk about how my wife is 100% PNT. You don't need to be 100% PNT to have the funding fee waived. You only need to be 10%. And for those who don't know, 10% is the lowest rating a veteran can get. And most, not all, but most veterans, I would say, most veterans who qualify for disability compensation, if they qualify for it, if they get any compensation at all, they're going to be getting at least 10%. So for veterans now, if you're enlisted or active duty, however you want to look at it, they're not going to be able to avoid the funding fee, and that's the thing. So a lot of times where people decide, to do their 20 or more, they end up getting married, having kids, all that type of stuff, having a family, and so you're moving every 4 years, whatever it is, every 2 years, however often you're moving. Not a lot of times, but people will end up buying houses while they're doing this, and some of them is, so they can get into the real estate just naturally, whatever it is. But they end up buying houses, but you're not going to be here for 10 years, let alone 30. You're not going to be in here for 30 years. Most people don't stay in the military for 30 years. You're going to either have to sell this house or you keep it. And the benefit, again, of this VA loan is what? You don't have to put any money down. And then on top of that, for service members, in short, they have guaranteed income, right? We know they're going to get paid. And so on top of that, they get the housing allowance, all these different type of things. And so this funding fee allows the VA to continue, in short, keep churning out these loans. And the service members are the main ones who are going to be paying that because, hey, you got your first house, you're paying, let's say, 1.25%. Then you got to go and get your second house. And let's just say these aren't the exact numbers that you would pay. But now you get your second house. Since it's your second one, you don't get the lowest rate because you already did your first time loan. So now you got to pay the second, your second time or more. And then let's say it's 3.3%. That you're paying for the funding fee. And so imagine if you moved 4 or 5 times. So my dad and my mom moved. I can't remember the order, but my dad was stationed in Virginia, Kentucky, Kansas, Hawaii, Arizona, and Maryland. So he moved all those, and he was, he lived in North Carolina originally. So he moved from North Carolina to I forgot Kansas. So I think he moved from North Carolina to Kansas to Virginia to Kentucky to Hawaii, Arizona to Maryland. All right, so was that 5, 6 times that he moved? Imagine buying a house every single time, you're paying a funding fee every time you move, right? And then you extrapolate that across the entire military. All right. But again, for disabled veterans, they're not paying that at all. So in short, if my wife and I end up using the VA loan, we're not paying the funding fee. And we're not paying no property taxes because my wife 100% P&T, but this is just about not having to pay the funding fee at all. So in short, now we still put money down, but in short, what this means is not only we will be able to not put any money down, and we wouldn't have to pay any PMI because we don't have to pay the funding fee. In short, the funding fee is the PMI, right? We're talking about PMI. We hear people talk about mortgages. So disabled veterans are in a situation they can avoid not only PMI altogether, regardless of how much money they put down, and no property taxes. All right, very advantageous for veterans here. Up next, USDA loans, which I know less and less about compared to the VA loans. U.S. Department of Agriculture guarantees USDA home loans for lower to moderate income buyers, people who don't have any money, purchasing homes in specifically defined rural areas, places that ain't got no Wi-Fi that's jumping like that. These loans don't require a down payment, but there's an upfront guarantee fee of 1% of the principal loan amount, as well as an annual fee of 0.35%, which you can roll into the cost of the mortgage. I don't like the annual fee. 1% of the principal amount, so every $100,000 is $1,000. Excuse me, every $100,000 is $100. No, 1,000 is right. Yeah, 1,000 is right. So they got to just pay $1,000 per 100K to take out. I'm not sure how that annual fee of 0.35% works. Let's say you can roll into the cost of the mortgage. It's an annual fee. So they just extrapolate it and they put it, I don't know. Anyways, other zero down mortgage options. If you're not military or buying a USDA rural area, you might still be eligible for a no down payment mortgage. United Wholesale Mortgage, for example, offers low to moderate income borrowers, again, people with no money. Why say low to moderate? Just tell us how much what their income is. Was it less than 50K? Conventional mortgage, and by the way, less than 50K, and then we're talking about these rural areas, depending on what state it's in. If we're talking about, damn, West Virginia, might be $20,000, $30,000 they're talking about here. So they're getting offered low to moderate income borrowers, conventional mortgages paired with a no interest payment deferred loan that covers a 3% down payment on homes priced up to hold on. Homes priced up to 500K. This is the type of stuff I can't deal with. If this is for low to moderate income borrowers, why is it going up to $500,000? New York-based Sunmark Credit Union offers a no down payment option that allows the home sellers to cover 3% minimum down payment required. If you're low to moderate, I don't know what moderate is here, but if you're lower income, why are you trying to get to 500? Even if you're at the top, you're at the moderates, but you do not need to be moderate and doing 500K unless you're living in like California, like places where, the average home in California is over $1 million, the whole states, If you don't qualify for no down payment program through your lender, your family or a friend might be willing to give you a 3% down payment. If so, you won't have to put any of your own money down. However, you might have to worry about, the gift tax. Well, you won't, but the person gifting you that money. Because 3% of 500,000 up is 15. So yeah, that should be good there. Anyways, if you're a doctor or other professional with medical or nursing school debt, you may be eligible for a no down payment physician mortgage. These provide a workaround for those who expect to earn more money in the future, but might not be able to save for a down payment due to debt. Save for a down payment now due to debt. I want to be clear. If you can't save for the down payment now, don't go get the mortgage. In short, you already got a mortgage. It's your damn student loan debt. Whew, why doesn't it say that? It's like, oh no, they got too much debt. Yeah, their student loan debt is a mortgage, just based off the flat out dollar amount, not based off the interest. I mean, my goodness, sometimes the interest on these student loans just make you want to pull your hair out. Low down payment mortgage options. Here we go. So now we got low down payment mortgage options. If you're not eligible for a true no money down home loan, you might still be able to buy a home with the next best thing, a low down payment mortgage. Is FHA already 3.5%? No, conventional is 3%. FHA is 3.5%. Like, what are we talking about here? You're going to pay off 97% of the loan. If you know anything about percentages, 97 and 100 is the same thing. Unless you're getting a test score, right? Unless you're looking for results where you want, to be 100% or not be 100%. You got to pay off 97% of the loan. Then when you add in the PMI, because you got to pay 97%, 96.5% of the home, you got to pay the PMI. Man, 3% conventional loans, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two government-sponsored enterprises underpinning mortgages in the U.S., back several 3% down conventional loan programs. Conventional 97, Home Ready, Home Possible, Home One. Each of these require just 3% down, but also private mortgage insurance. Again, the VA loan, zero money down. And on top of that, you don't have to pay the funding fee. And a lot of times the people don't like the funding fee. But again, most people are not well versed enough in the benefits that disabled veterans, should I say, have access to. Let veterans first, then disabled veterans. You gotta be a veteran before you're a disabled veteran. A lot of people aren't aware of it. A lot of people's military experience on the financial side is dealing with people who are active duty, and so by definition, they can't be a disabled veteran because you can't receive income from the DoD and the VA at the same time. And so they still have to pay that funding fee. But if you talk to you talk to someone who knows about 100% PNT or a veteran that is 100% PNT, yeah, different conversation out here. All right, because they can just put 3% down on the VA loan if they want to. They can do 0%, and then no PMI because they disabled veteran. The cost of premiums varies by program and individual buyer. FHA loans, again, FHA, Federal Housing Administration, only requires 3.5% down with a credit score as low as 580. See, it's interesting. They're supposed to do all these things and make sure we don't have another 2008 crisis. But when I come here and I share this damn tab, let me make sure to share. Look at me. See, got me cussing late at night. What does this say? Lowest possible credit score is 300, but it's unlikely that anyone has a score this low. Credit scores typically range from 300 to 850, and they can vary depending on the credit scoring company and when they were calculated. For example, FICO considers scores below 580 to be poor, while Vantage Score considers scores below 500 to be poor. I want to be very clear. I'm trying to pull up this chart so it's easier to see. So this is for the FICO score. We got poor being from 300 to 580, fair being 581 to 670, 671 to 740 is good, very good, 740, 800, then 801 to 850 is exceptional. I want to be very, 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 very clear. When it comes to credit scores, you either want to have no credit or in short, perfect credit. Let's just call perfect credit here 760 and up. I don't want to get into it. It says very good here, 740. So let's say 740 and up, just to stay with this picture. If your credit score is not 740 and above, you put yourself in a situation where you have no credit, or do what you can to get above that 740. Having bad credit is arguably third worst thing. If you want to show me your financial situation, back taxes is going to be the very first thing. You're like, child support, alimony, things like that, where you're sure you owe the government. those are going to be the worst things. Then student loans, and then a low credit score. When you have a low credit score, there's a lot that you can't do until you fix your credit score, because now your credit's bad, and so now you can't take out any debt. Like, say we're in a situation where you want to get out of debt, but you're in a situation where we can sell a car, sell some things, and then we just need to take out a loan to cover the difference, and you'll be in less debt overall if we execute this, take out debt plan. But your credit score is too low. Obviously, if you were able to take out debt, you probably wouldn't be in the situation to do a debt consolidation, which you shouldn't do. But if you're able to go get debt, if you had a good credit score, you wouldn't be talking to me right now. But you don't, and so that's why we're in that situation. Oh my goodness, it is crazy where it says 580. Like, if your credit score starts with a 5, just cancel everything and pay everything off. You don't need to have no more credit. You failed the test. If you have a credit score between 500 and 579, shoot me that. Anyways, you'll need a higher down payment of 10%. What are the chances that people with a credit score between 500 and 579 have $10,000? Let's say the home is $100,000. They have $10,000. What are the chances they have $5,000? Let's say the home is $50,000. All right. The average home in America, though, I believe, is over 400. Average home price, America. Average home price in America is, drumroll please, $424,000. $425,000. That's July 12th. That's the last week. It's not even a week ago. Today's 16th. The median home price is $450. Oh, this is Laurel. Jesus. I was about to say, ooh. That still says average. I'm gonna get median. Median is $387. So let's just call it $300,000. You're telling me that there are people out here with a credit score between 500 and 579, and they got $30,000 saved? That's a damn lie. Not liquid. Maybe in a 401k retirement account, but they don't. And their employer help contribute a lot of that, right? 10% down for a mortgage. A lot of people don't put 10% down. That's why they have the 3.5%. 3% for conventional, 3.5% for the FHA. So you're talking about that you want people to have more than 3 times that for 3%, and a little under 3 times that for the 3.5%. Come on. Similar to PMI, you'll pay FHA mortgage insurance with an FHA loan. However, unlike conventional PMI, you'll pay FHA premiums for as long as you have the mortgage. In most cases, yeah, sometimes I think it's 11 years or so. But a lot of times for FHA, you have to pay it the whole time. Insanity. Imagine paying this mortgage insurance, FHA mortgage insurance premium for the length of the loan for 30 years, all because you didn't put more than 20% down, which if you would, or could have, you would have went the conventional route. So in short, the FHA, I believe it's FHA. If you look at the genesis of it, it's for poor people. Let me look up on Wikipedia real quick. See, y'all got me in research mode. Here we go. Boom. Looking on Wikipedia. Again, this is for FHA insured loan. FHA, or the program, originated during the Great Depression of the 1930s, when the rates of foreclosures and defaults rose sharply, and the program was intended to provide lenders with sufficient insurance. The government subsidized some FHA programs, but the goal was to make it self-supporting based on borrower's insurance premiums. Come on now, y'all. This is for people who have no money. All right, now it's saying here people are frequently refinance their FHA to get rid of their mortgage premium. Again, they have historically allowed lower income Americans to borrow money to purchase a home that they would not otherwise be able to afford. Why would we want to do that? Also, wouldn't one say the lower income Americans, based off the data at least, is black people. Black people don't got no houses. Like who? Black people, I guess they can't take advantage of the FHA loan. Just think the FHA loan, they require you to put more down than conventional. Conventional is 3%. FHA is 3.5%. So for every 100,000, you gotta be able to save 350. I mean, excuse me, $3,500. So you're getting towards that, upper 300,000, $400,000 mark for the median or average that we were looking at. Somebody need to have over $10,000 saved. Most people don't have $400. Half people don't have $400. Even more than that, don't have 1,000. Most people live in paycheck to paycheck. Where are you gonna get this 10K from? And again, for people who are able to save up this 3 or 3.5%, that's the most money they ever have saved. And as soon as they saved it, they didn't put it in an emergency fund or invest it, quote unquote here, invested. They went and used it to go get hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Just think about that. The most money most people ever have saved, they took that money and used it to get hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Most people have never saved up more than their down payment for their home, or their down payment in general for a car, whatever it is. 1% down mortgage program. Some mortgage lenders offer conventional mortgage programs with only 1% down. This includes Rocket Mortgage. For these programs, the lender pays 2% of the required 3%. Wow. What's the rules and what's the contract though? It didn't say what happens. I mean, you pay only 1%, they pay the other 2%, but okay. Good Neighbor Next Door is a program for borrowers who work in select public service professions, teachers, firefighters, law enforcement, and emergency medical technicians, and plan to buy a home in a qualifying area. Sponsored by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, aka HUD. The program provides a discount up to 50% on a home with a down payment of just $100. I think that's what they made use of SWAT. If you watch SWAT with Shamar Moore, I think that's what what's his name? My wife and I binged it. We finished watching it last year sometime. I can't remember the guy's name on SWAT. And I gotta look it up. Luca. There we go. Yeah, Luca. Luca bought a house. Yeah, and he and Jimmy moved into it, or Jimmy. I don't know if it was Jimmy, but Luca bought a house. It was real cheap. I think that might have been what he had used. Only 50% off the house. Only $100 down. That's crazy. And for somebody like people in police, law enforcement, they make a lot of money because they can just ensure an infinite amount of overtime because their job's 25/8, and then they can do security, right? They can do all these various things because their skill set. People in law enforcement can make a whole bunch of money. And saying 50% down. Now where are they living at? At least in the TV show in California, it looked like Luca was living like pretty much Compton. Like they put him where it says these qualifying areas. But hey, pros and cons of a no down payment mortgage. The ability to buy a home with no or very little money can be appealing, but there are drawbacks. The main drawback, regardless if you have to pay PMI or not, you got to pay 100% of the loan. That's a major drawback. You're paying interest on the 100. Whew, that just give me chills. Pros of no down payment mortgages. You can buy a home now instead of later. Sure, I would consider that a pro, but Bankrate does. When you don't have to come up with a substantial down payment, it's easier to buy a home sooner. I don't like the word easier here. It's more accessible. It doesn't take as long. It's shorter as far as a time standpoint, but I wouldn't say easier. All right. You can keep more cash on hand. People don't have no cash. Even if you have enough to make a sizable down payment, you might want to keep that money liquid for things like emergency savings, remodeling, or investing. I want to be clear. Your emergency savings is different from your down payment, different from your remodeling, different from your investing. These are all different buckets of money. So you should have first your emergency savings saved and then your down payment. There should be two separate buckets. If you got $20,000 saved for your emergency fund and you want to put 30,000 down, you're gonna need to have $50,000 saved. If you want to have $10,000 for remodeling, then you need to have $60,000 saved. Right? You got it. Right? Investing this money is gone. It's in a brokerage account or your retirement account, whatever it is. Brokerage, whatever. It's in the stock market, so it's gone. Not it's in your bank account. Cons of no down payment mortgage. Look how many cons there are. You'll have little or no equity. Yes, you'll have no equity if you do 100% on. I'm telling you that. You'll have equity, I guess, if you make your first payment. Maybe not, though. Depending on with how high interest rates are now. Nah, you can't be. If you do a no down mortgage, if you starting off at negative AM, my goodness, I'm gonna have to pull up a calculator to see how that works. Not right now, though, but another day. When you start with a low or zero down loan, you'll have little to no equity. If home values fall, you could end up owing more on the home than it's worth, making it difficult to sell or refinance. Here's the one thing with that. See, why do you need to sell or refinance your home if you can afford it? Right? Regardless, see, if the value of your home goes down, if the value of something goes down, that only impacts you if you're trying to liquidate the assets. Or if you're out here doing a comparison, a pissing contest with your net worth. But if your home is worth $500,000, and let's say your home's worth $500,000, let's say your mortgage payment is for $5,000, just for simple math, and your income's continuing to increase. What's it matter if your house, your home price decreases and you're not looking to sell your home? What's it matter? It doesn't do anything to you. Like the value of your home doesn't do anything. Hell, it might help you out because your property taxes might not go up as much. If y'all keep seeing me look up for the YouTube people, there's a bug coming over here, and I wanted to get a little bit closer so I can kill it. Anyways, when I'm done recording. Oh, yeah, okay. Your interest rate might be higher. Likely, you might pay a higher interest rate for a no or a low money down loan. Usually, the VA though offers lower interest rates than everybody else. Got to shop around.